I never thought I'd be sharing something like this, but I need advice. I'm Sebastian, 28M, and I'm about to marry the love of my life, Vanessa, 27F, in just 2 weeks. We've been together for 4 amazing years, and I couldn't be happier. At least, that was true until my estranged family decided to show up and throw a wrench into everything. Let me give you some context. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, where everyone knew everyone else's business. My parents, Dalton, 55M, and Jessica, 53F, were well-respected members of the community. My dad owned a successful local hardware store, and my mom was a teacher at the elementary school. From the outside, we looked like the perfect family, but appearances can be deceiving. I have an older sister, Elizabeth, 30F, who was always the star of the family. She was beautiful, popular, and excelled at everything she did. Elizabeth was the captain of the cheerleading squad, got straight A's, and was even crowned prom queen. My parents doted on her, attending every game and competition, proudly displaying her trophies and awards all over the house. And then there was me. I was the quiet, awkward kid who preferred building computers to playing sports. I struggled to make friends and often felt invisible, both at school and at home. My parents rarely attended my science fairs or programming competitions. When I did win awards, they were tucked away in a drawer, while Elizabeth's took center stage on the mantle. I remember one particular incident that really drove home the disparity in how we were treated. When I was 15, I won a state-level programming competition. I was ecstatic and couldn't wait to tell my parents. But when I got home, bursting with excitement, I found the house empty. It turned out they had driven 3 hours to watch Elizabeth compete in a regional debate tournament. They had completely forgotten about my competition. When they finally returned home late that night, Elizabeth proudly displaying yet another trophy, I tried to tell them about my win. My mom absently said, "That's nice, dear," before turning back to Elizabeth to discuss her debate performance. My dad didn't even acknowledge me, too busy planning a celebratory dinner for Elizabeth. That was the moment I realized I would never be a priority in my own family. From then on, I threw myself into my studies and my coding projects. I worked part-time at a local computer repair shop, saving every penny for college. I was determined to get out of that town and away from my family as soon as I could. The day I left for college was both terrifying and liberating. I had gotten into a good computer science program on the other side of the country, in California. My parents seemed more relieved than sad to see me go. Elizabeth, who was already in her second year at a prestigious Ivy League school, didn't even bother to come home to say goodbye. Once I was in California, I cut off almost all contact with my family. I would occasionally talk to my dad, who seemed to feel some guilt about how I had been treated, but even those conversations were infrequent and superficial. I focused on building my own life, excelling in my classes, and eventually landing a great job at a tech startup in San Francisco. It was at that startup that I met Vanessa. She was a new marketing hire, and we bonded over late nights working on a big project. Vanessa was everything I had ever wanted in a partner: kind, supportive, and genuinely interested in who I was as a person. For the first time in my life, I felt truly seen and appreciated. Our relationship progressed quickly, and within a year, we had moved in together. Vanessa knew about my family's situation and was incredibly understanding. She never pushed me to reconnect with them, respecting my decision to keep that chapter of my life closed. Fast forward to 3 weeks ago. Vanessa and I were in the middle of last-minute wedding preparations when I received an unexpected email from Elizabeth. She said she and our parents needed to meet with me urgently. I was hesitant, but Vanessa encouraged me to hear them out, thinking they might want to reconcile before the wedding. When they showed up at our apartment last week, I could immediately tell something was off. Elizabeth looked nervous and fidgety, while my parents had an almost smug expression. That's when they dropped the bombshell. Elizabeth was pregnant, and she claimed the baby was Vanessa's ex-boyfriend's child. I was stunned. Vanessa had dated a guy named Mike, 29M, for a few months before we got together, but they had broken up amicably. In fact, Mike had moved to New York for a job opportunity, which was part of the reason for their split. Elizabeth claimed she had evidence of an ongoing affair between Vanessa and Mike, right under my nose for years. Elizabeth said she had text messages, photos, and even hotel receipts proving the affair. She threatened to expose everything unless I called off the wedding and let her have Mike instead. According to her, she and Mike had a connection when they met at a conference in New York a few months ago, and she was certain he would want to be with her if Vanessa was out of the picture. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own sister, who I hadn't spoken to in a decade, was trying to blackmail me and steal my fiancé's ex-boyfriend. It was absurd. I knew Vanessa would never cheat on me, and I trusted her completely. But Elizabeth insisted she had proof, and my parents were backing her up, saying they had seen the evidence themselves. Vanessa was just as shocked as I was. She vehemently denied any involvement with Mike and was hurt that my family would try to destroy our relationship like this. We asked Elizabeth to show us her so-called evidence, but she refused, saying she'd only reveal it if we agreed to her demands. I was furious. Not only were they trying to ruin my happiness, but they were also willing to drag Vanessa's reputation through the mud. I told them to get out of our apartment and never contact us again. As they left, Elizabeth warned that she'd go public with the information if we didn't comply within a week. Now, Vanessa and I are trying to figure out what to do. We know the allegations are false, but we're worried about the damage Elizabeth could do if she starts spreading lies. Vanessa suggested we contact Mike to get his side of the story, but I'm hesitant. What if reaching out to him makes things worse? I can't help but think about how this is just another example of my family's toxic behavior. Even after years of no contact, they still found a way to insert themselves into my life and try to control me. Part of me wants to expose their scheme and humiliate them as they intended to do to us. Another part just wants to ignore them and hope they'll go away. But with the wedding so close, I'm worried about what they might do. Vanessa has been incredible through all of this. She's hurt by the accusations but more concerned about how this is affecting me. She's suggested we postpone the wedding if we need time to deal with this, but I don't want to let my family dictate our lives any more than they already have. I'm at a loss for what to do. Should we confront them head on? Ignore them and hope for the best? Or should we come up with a plan to turn the tables on them? I never wanted drama in my life, especially not right before my wedding. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Update 1. It's been a week since my last post, and to say a lot has happened would be an understatement. I want to start by thanking everyone for their advice and support. Your comments helped Vanessa and I realized that we needed to take action rather than let my family control the narrative. After much discussion, we decided our first step should be to reach out to Mike, Vanessa's ex-boyfriend. I was nervous about this. What if Elizabeth was telling the truth? What if Mike confirmed the affair? But Vanessa was confident, and her trust in me gave me the courage to make the call. Contacting Mike turned out to be the best decision we could have made. He was completely shocked when we told him about Elizabeth's claims. He assured us that he hadn't been in contact with Vanessa since their amicable breakup years ago, let alone had an affair with her. But the real bombshell came when he revealed that Elizabeth had reached out to him a few months ago. Mike forwarded us the messages Elizabeth had sent him. They started innocently enough, with Elizabeth saying she was in New York for a conference and wanted to meet up for coffee as she was a friend of Vanessa's. Mike, being polite, agreed. But after their meeting, Elizabeth's messages became increasingly flirtatious and desperate. She talked about feeling a connection with him and how she couldn't stop thinking about him. Mike had politely but firmly turned her down, telling her he wasn't interested in a long-distance relationship and that it wouldn't be right given his history with Vanessa. This information gave us a crucial piece of the puzzle, Elizabeth's motive. It seemed she had become infatuated with Mike and concocted this elaborate scheme to try and win him over. It was manipulative, desperate, and frankly, a little scary. Armed with this knowledge, Vanessa and I decided to confront my family. We set up a meeting at a local coffee shop, a public place where they couldn't make a scene. When they arrived, they looked confident, probably thinking we were going to give in to their demands. Instead, we laid out everything we knew. We told them about our conversation with Mike and showed them the messages Elizabeth had sent him. The look on Elizabeth's face was one I'll never forget. She went from smug to panicked in seconds. My parents, who had been backing her up until that point, suddenly looked unsure and embarrassed. Elizabeth tried to deny everything at first, claiming the messages were fake. But when we threatened to call Mike right then and there and put him on speakerphone, she broke down. Through tears, she admitted that she had made everything up. She was pregnant, but the father wasn't Mike, it was a married colleague she had been seeing, who had refused to leave his wife for her. She said she had become obsessed with Mike after meeting him, convincing herself that he was the answer to all her problems. When he rejected her, she came up with a plan to accuse Vanessa of having an affair with him, thinking that if she could break us up, she might have a chance with Mike. My parents were mortified. They had believed Elizabeth's lies without question, never once considering that she might be manipulating them. They started apologizing profusely, but I cut them off. I told them that their willingness to believe the worst about me and Vanessa, without any real evidence, showed how little they truly cared about me. I made it clear that they were not welcome at our wedding and that I wanted nothing to do with them going forward. Elizabeth tried to apologize, saying she was desperate and didn't know what else to do. She talked about how her life hadn't turned out the way she expected. She was single, in a dead-end job, and now pregnant with a married man's child. She said she saw how happy and successful I was and it made her jealous. But I couldn't forgive her for trying to destroy my relationship and Vanessa's reputation. I told her that her problems were her own to deal with, and that she needed professional help, not schemes and manipulation. As we left the coffee shop, I felt a mix of emotions, relief that the truth was out, anger at my family's actions, and sadness for the relationships that were now permanently damaged. Vanessa held my hand tightly, reminding me that we were in this together. We spent the rest of the day calling our friends and Vanessa's family, explaining the situation and reassuring them that the wedding was still on. Most were supportive, though a few expressed concern about the family drama. Vanessa's parents, who had always been warm and welcoming to me, were particularly upset on our behalf and promised to support us however they could. Now, with just a week to go until our wedding, Vanessa and I are trying to focus on the positive. We're more committed to each other than ever, and we're looking forward to starting our life together, surrounded by people who truly care about us. We've hired additional security for the wedding, just in case my family tries to show up uninvited. This whole ordeal has been stressful and painful, but it's also shown me how strong Vanessa and I are as a couple. We face this challenge together, supporting each other every step of the way. If anything, I'm even more certain now that I'm marrying the right person. As for my family, I don't know what the future holds. Right now, I can't imagine ever wanting them in my life again. But I'm trying to focus on my upcoming wedding and the life Vanessa and I are building together. That's what really matters. Update 2. It's been 3 months since our wedding, and I wanted to give you all an update on how things have been going. First off, I'm happy to report that Vanessa and I had a beautiful wedding day. Despite the drama leading up to it, we were able to focus on our love for each other and the joy of starting our new life together. The additional security we hired wasn't needed. My family didn't try to show up or cause any problems. The aftermath of the confrontation with my family has been complicated. About a month after the wedding, I received a long email from my dad. He expressed deep remorse for his role in Elizabeth's scheme and for years of neglect during my childhood. He explained that he had always felt guilty about the way I was treated but had never found the courage to stand up to my mother or challenge the family dynamic. In his email, my dad shared some things about his own childhood that I had never known. He grew up in a strict, emotionally cold household where his own achievements were often overlooked in favor of his older brothers. He said he had promised himself he would be different with his own children, but somehow had fallen into the same patterns with me and Elizabeth. He acknowledged that this wasn't an excuse for his behavior, but rather an explanation and a starting point for his own self-reflection. My dad's email was heartfelt, and for the first time, I felt like he was truly seeing me. He asked if we could meet to talk things through. After discussing it with Vanessa, I agreed to have coffee with him. When we met, my dad broke down in tears. He apologized for everything, for not being there for me, for believing Elizabeth's lies, for trying to ruin my wedding. He told me that my mother had left him, unable to cope with the guilt and shame of what they had done. Elizabeth had moved back home, her relationship with the married man having fallen apart when he found out about her pregnancy. I listened to everything my dad had to say, and I could tell he was genuinely sorry. But years of hurt and neglect don't disappear overnight. I told him I appreciated his apology, but I needed time to process everything. We agreed to take things slow, maybe meeting for coffee once a month to see if we could rebuild some kind of relationship. As for Elizabeth and my mother, I haven't heard from them directly. My dad mentioned that Elizabeth had started therapy to deal with her issues, and my mother was staying with her sister, still too ashamed to face me. Part of me is curious about how they're doing, but a larger part is relieved to have them out of my life. Vanessa has been incredibly supportive through all of this. She's encouraged me to be open to reconnecting with my dad while also reminding me that I don't owe my family anything. Her strength and love have been my anchor through this emotional roller coaster. On a happier note, Vanessa and I are settling into married life beautifully. We're talking about buying a house and starting a family of our own. After everything we've been through, we're more committed than ever to creating a loving, supportive home, the kind of family I never had growing up. I'm still processing everything that's happened, but I'm hopeful for the future. If there's one thing I've learned from all this, it's the importance of surrounding yourself with people who truly love and support you, whether they're related by blood or not. Update 3. It's been a year since my last update, and I wanted to share some significant developments in my life. Vanessa and I are doing great. We bought a house 6 months ago and are expecting our first child, a baby girl, in just a few weeks. We're excited and a little nervous about becoming parents, but we're facing it together. As for my family situation, things have continued to evolve. My relationship with my dad has slowly improved over the past year. We've been meeting regularly, and he's been putting in genuine effort to make amends and be a part of my life. He's expressed interest in being a grandfather to our daughter, and after many discussions with Vanessa, we've decided to give him a chance, with clear boundaries in place. Elizabeth reached out to me about 4 months ago. She had given birth to a healthy baby boy and said that becoming a mother had made her realize the gravity of what she had done. She asked for forgiveness and a chance to make things right. I was hesitant at first, but after talking it over with Vanessa and my therapist, yes, I finally took that step. I agreed to meet her. Our reunion was emotional and awkward. Elizabeth looked different, more mature, less self-centered. She apologized profusely for her actions and said she was committed to being a better person for her son. While I'm not ready to fully trust her yet, I can see that she's making an effort to change. As for my mother, she finally reached out about 2 months ago. Her email was a mix of apologies and excuses, and honestly, it left me feeling conflicted. I haven't responded yet. I'm still working through my feelings about her with my therapist. Vanessa and I have decided to take things one day at a time with my family. They won't be a big part of our lives anytime soon, but we're cautiously open to small steps toward reconciliation, always with our own little family's well-being as the top priority. Looking back on everything that's happened, I'm amazed at how much my life has changed. The family drama was painful, but it led me to confront issues I had been avoiding for years. I'm stronger now, more secure in who I am and what I want from life. As we prepare to welcome our daughter, I'm committed to breaking the cycle of favoritism and neglect that marked my own childhood. Vanessa and I promise to create a home filled with love, support, and open communication for our little one. The house we bought is in a quiet neighborhood with good schools nearby. We've been busy setting up the nursery, painting the walls a soft yellow and filling it with books and toys. Vanessa's parents have been incredibly supportive, helping us with the move and offering advice on parenthood. My dad has been trying to be involved too. He's offered to help with some renovations around the house, and while I'm still cautious, I appreciate his efforts. We've had some good conversations about the past and his hopes for the future. He seems genuinely excited about becoming a grandfather. Elizabeth and I have had a few more meetings since our initial reunion. She's been remarkably patient with my hesitancy to fully let her back into my life. She's shared some of what she's been working on in therapy, and I can see she's making real efforts to change her behavior patterns. Her son, my nephew, is adorable, and seeing her as a mother has helped me understand her better. I still haven't responded to my mother's email. My therapist has been helping me work through my feelings about her, but I'm not ready for contact yet. Maybe someday, but for now, I'm focusing on the family I'm creating with Vanessa. Work has been going well for both Vanessa and me. I recently got a promotion at my tech company, and Vanessa's marketing career is thriving. We're in a good place financially, which has allowed us to start a college fund for our daughter even before she's born. As I sit here, feeling our baby kick, I'm filled with a mix of excitement and apprehension about the future. Parenthood is going to be a new challenge, but after everything we've been through, I'm confident that Vanessa and I can handle it together.